Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Long Island Legends podcast, the only podcast dedicated to showcasing the most legendary talent here on our Long Island community. And today I have Michael DeAngelis from Equiquest Private Hard Money Real Estate Lending. Welcome to the show, Michael.
Thanks so much for having me, Jeremiah.
So a little bit of background about Michael. He has deep Long Island roots. He moved here from the Bronx when he was just a baby with his parents and three older brothers. You were the first person in your family to graduate from college, earning a marketing degree from the New York Institute of Technology. Blending street smarts and trade skills passed down from your father with formal education, you built a dynamic career in the construction and building maintenance industry, starting as a sales rep, ultimately earning your MBA, and eventually becoming a vice president leading North American sales. And in May of 2020, you launched Equiquest as a side hustle, and now you're focused exclusively on funding real estate investors right here on Long Island. And in addition to lending, you actively invest in commercial real estate and hope to bring the same energy and drive to exploring other ventures as well. I think I have it covered, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much.
So just for the audience, now, guys, you know me. I buy, renovate, and resell homes. Everything we do is with private money. And I think when I started in this business, right, everybody thought, well, private money is something that's so hard to attain, when in reality, right, if you find the right deals and you work with the right people, it will grow and it will multiply as long as you do the right thing. It is absolutely critical that you develop private money relationships. Is it difficult in the beginning? Yes, but I can tell you from firsthand experience, it gets easier over time. And Michael, I know you've invested in deals that we've done before. And so with that, welcome to the show, and let's get right into it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what made you get started in private money lending?
Yeah, so, after getting to the point in my corporate career, when I got super comfortable, kids were through college, house had been paid off for a long time, really financially secure, living the life of my dreams. The next phase of my dreams was to invest and to step away from corporate America. And I really looked across the gamut of really what was the best fit for me, what was going to make me complete, what was going to give me energy and joy, and what I did for in the business and investing world for the rest of my life. So I had this vision of investing. So I really looked literally across the board in every possible thing, and I really landed on lending and the being a limited partner in multifamily commercial buildings. So it was really a journey, and that was really the best fit for me.
So there was no temptation to be an active real estate operator. Did that ever cross your mind at all? Or you were, for the most part, saying, no, I want to take a back seat?
Yeah, no, absolutely. That was one of the things I looked really, really closely at. And I had done a little bit of that over my corporate career. Again, very little, but I had flipped some homes, had some partners, did some of that. But in essence, the journey that I see a lot of people taking in the real estate space is they start out flipping homes and either get into rentals or commercial, but ultimately a lot of the folks that flip homes build capital and then ultimately become lenders.
Yeah.
So I figured, okay, well, I have the capital. Let me fast forward to something that isn't as time intensive, running projects and, and sitting down at kitchen tables, trying to get people that are distressed in need of a quick sale. And the other aspect is, my whole entire career was business to business, right? So, me building a lending business that's servicing another business person was a really good fit for my skills.
Okay.
So those were really the reasons why I landed here.
Okay. Did you have, besides fixing and flipping homes, did you have any additional background in real estate investing?
No, not really. I mean, Nancy and I bought some, in the '08 frame, we bought some distressed property to build a home, things like that. But primarily, in the business that I was in for a couple of decades, I was working with property managers, always in the either construction or maintenance of big commercial buildings. And
specifically on Long Island? Or
no,
nationwide?
that was national.
That was
yeah,
national.
I started on Long Island, But as my career expanded, got my MBA,
Yeah.
got into roles, it became really
Gotcha.
national.
Because yeah, as I had mentioned, you led and you were leader in North American sales,
Yes.
right? But
Yes.
but did it start locally?
It started
Locally,
locally,
okay.
yeah. It started locally, and then I was, really a salesperson for Long Island,
Sure.
actually just Nassau County, and then, went for the MBA and then became a national manager, and my career kind of took off.
Gotcha. As far as like real estate deals that you fund, what are they typically?
Yeah, it's your bread and butter, middle class home to upper class home, and Nassau and Suffolk County. I
Okay.
mean, it's just that simple.
Typically a fix and flip or buy and hold. What do you see more of lately?
Yeah, so for me, it's a lot of fix and flip. That the buy and hold, I do all short term loans, so up to 12 months,
Hmm.
and there's an option for a small extension, but it's short term loans. So if somebody's buying a home that you're not going to be able to get a long term mortgage on, you need money to buy it, renovate it, and then turn it into a rental. I do some of that,
Okay.
but it's primarily fix and flip. Funding the construction renovation aspect, and sometimes I'm just funding that because
Sure.
somebody's purchased a property with their own funds, and then sometimes, and most of the time, I'm funding either all of the construction or all of the purchase or a combination of both.
The biggest thing I think that a lot of people, when they get into this business, right? And I know for me, I started off with my own money, a home equity line of credit. I leveraged that in conjunction with private money. But that was very, very close family, right? I had my own money. I had a family friend that was willing to put up money that allowed me to do my first deal, which then gave me a little bit, right, of credence to be able to go to hard money lenders, use some of my own money with hard money, do a couple of more deals. Now I had a couple of deals under my belt. And then at that point, I went to people who were looking to lend to me privately. And I had obviously a background enough that they would say, okay, we could lend to this person. How do you evaluate the people that come to you, right? Because that's a hard thing. Like so much of this business, yes, we live in a strong real estate market, but a lot of it is dependent on the operator. You have to be a very, very good operator. And so what are you looking for when people come to you? Because yes, you're evaluating the deal, but the operator plays a big role in that.
Well, and so I'm looking at the character of the person. So as simple as when I do a ChatGPT prompt or a Google search, what does the public know about this person? And then from there, either the person's going to be a star, or there might be a question mark or two that I need to dig into a little bit more. And then we get to know each other just a little bit. Usually it's a quick cup of coffee or maybe a lunch or something like that. But I'm evaluating the character of the person. And sometimes I'll ask for a credit report. And
Sure.
it's not so much to look at, oh, this person's at a 700. It's just, does that person have the character to pay loans on time?
Yeah, yeah, no, and,
Yeah.
and I think that's totally fair.
Yeah.
I would say that was probably one of the biggest things that I had in my favor, that even with like a limited background, yes, I had flipped a few homes up until that point, but even with a limited background, I think people saw that, hey, at the end of the day, like I could trust this guy. I'm not perfect, but like this is somebody that, is going to do the right thing, has me, when they're from a lender standpoint, they realize like I'm putting them first, like their interests are first. And I think they felt comfortable based on my character. And obviously, over time, those relationships have grown and developed and multiplied, from an extraordinary standpoint that even I, looking back, can't believe what it's grown to. But it all started with having the right character.
It really is that. That's a big piece of it. And then, the other thing that I think is worth mentioning is, do you have the capacity to actually execute a fix and flip or a real estate
Yes.
project? And that is, the loans that I do are, interest only each month. So
Sure.
can you actually make that payment? Do you
Yes,
have a
yes.
little bit of cash flow that can do that? And then really the important part is, do you have a plan and or have you executed other projects, that identifies that you have the capacity to bring a project from start to finish.
And so, without getting obviously into the terms, but typically your loans interest only, 12 months,
Yes.
right? Okay. And then beyond that, right? Like I would imagine you're looking at the deal, you're looking at the person, okay? You're obviously evaluating their ability to pay it back. Are there any variations with the loans, or for the most part, it's the same thing each time?
No, there's lots of variations, and that's the beauty of dealing with somebody that's, truly, truly private money. So it's either my money, somebody in my family's money, or a really close business associate,
Sure.
or So we have lots of flexibility on how we put deals together. Sometimes people don't, are great operators. They might be, getting into their third deal, and they're, cash flow is a little bit less. So sometimes we get creative on how much interest is paid monthly. Sometimes if we know a property is going to close really, really quick, sometimes we lighten up on the minimum months of
Okay.
interest. So we get super, super, super creative on
Okay.
what that looks like.
Now, you said before, like a lot of times you fund the rehab, sometimes you do the purchase price, but you'll do both.
Absolutely,
Okay.
positively. Yeah.
Okay. What are you using to protect yourself in the event the deal goes south?
Yeah. So that's a great question. So, what I'm looking to protect myself is every single loan is a commercial loan.
Yes.
So the loan is done in either in an LLC or a corporation, right? So it's a commercial loan, which is different, but still similar to a individual person loan.
Sure.
So we have that as a starting point. I'm also only doing first position loans,
Yes.
right? So we are the bank, the exact stance of holding a mortgage on 20 or 30-year mortgage on a primary residency. So we're a lien on the deed. So that's a big place of security for me. And you're also not only doing the loan as a commercial loan in an entity, you're also personally guaranteeing that you're going to pay back the loan. Yes. As well. And then for me, the last and really most important piece is this: somebody that if things get, say the economy, something happens with the economy, or some natural disaster happens that kind of makes things tough for that investor, is it somebody that I can have a conversation with and we can figure out how we're going to exit this project? That's it. I mean, that's really the overarching piece. Is it somebody, going back to the character piece, that we can exit successfully together? So that's the things I'm looking for.
Yeah, and I think that's you covered everything, because you could have the best deal, right? But certain times things happen, right? There's things outside of your control. I mean, over the years and having done hundreds of them, I know how to mitigate that risk, but the risks are still there, right? And there's things that you don't expect sometimes, and you have to be prepared for it. When you're looking, I know you talked about analyzing the content of the character of the people that you're lending to. What are some red flags that in the past have made you say, you know what, this is not the person to lend to?
Yeah, so I love working with new investors. Almost to the point where I'm mentoring them.
Sure.
On how to do their first deal, how to analyze the deal. But it's that person that is not willing to embrace the fact that you actually need a plan, and you actually need to analyze the numbers, have a decent Excel spreadsheet. But the biggest red flag for me is people that are guessing at numbers. And the big red flag for me is and I hear it all the time, and if somebody's experienced and really, really experienced, sometimes this number's real, but the most of the time I hear it's $100,000 renovation. And I say, how do you know that? Do you have a scope of work? Have you gotten estimates, construction? No. I'm okay. So you're guessing at that. That's probably my biggest red flag. When somebody just says, hey, it's a 6-figure renovation, I know for sure that it is, and I challenge them on it, and it's the furthest thing from that. It's just a guess.
When you say you're challenging, you think that number's low?
I think it's a guess.
Okay.
It's just, I don't know if it's low or if it's high. Somebody that may have not even been in a property.
Yeah.
They're buying it at auction or something like that. Or maybe has been through the property, doesn't have the construction experience, and it is just literally just so incredibly anxious to put a deal together that they're saying, hey, I really want to put this deal together. I think it's really, really good. I've done the analysis, and I think it's going to be $100,000 renovation. That's a big red flag, because it doesn't take a lot to call up to the contractor that you're going to use and actually confirm that number.
I know. And, part of the problem is, when I started, right, because at this point, having done this 10 years, $100,000 renovation, you could do a lot with.
Yeah.
Not so much anymore. You blink and that number goes. And you think, I remember like I did my first $100,000 renovation and I almost practically rebuilt the house. You know what I mean? Now a good renovation. Now, granted, my contractors, they're not the most expensive, but they're definitely not the cheapest either, and so they work efficiently. They'll always stand by their work. They do everything the right way, licensed, insured, the whole nine. But at the end of it, like that comes with a price, right? So when people tell me, oh, this is, a $50,000, $60,000 renovation, like I've had what I call like hotel deals where it's like, cleanup, maybe a bathroom, maybe some paint, trim, and we're already at 30. You know what I mean? Blinking. And it's like, we barely did anything, Now imagine you were to add sheetrock, roof, windows, siding, HVAC, framing, all the things. Landscaping. I mean, people don't realize how much that could eat it up, right? Like that number goes fast, really fast.
And I think that is something that is not that hard to have access to, or at least get super close to. Build in a 10% variance and be successful, right? Just being smart about it,
Absolutely.
We had a saying in corporate America, the numbers don't lie, right? And the numbers don't lie. So, get comfortable with the numbers, show them to me. I'll either quickly say yes or no, and you got funding. I mean, it's just that simple.
Yeah, it's that easy.
Yeah.
So on that note, newer investors, right? How can they build trust with you? Somebody comes, I know you said you like mentoring, right?
Yeah.
Should somebody who's never done a deal still come to you?
Absolutely, positively. Okay. Yeah, I encourage that. And, I mean, I love the money I'm making in this. And, but I also love those personal relationships. And I really love helping people, specifically people in the community that I'm in here on Long Island. So, yeah, I would say, and, I would say, set up some time, right? You can do that on my website. Just set up, just block some time with me to get to know each other, ask questions how you tell me how you operate, ask questions how I operate.
Gotcha.
Build that relationship, and and I'll question you on, do you know the numbers? Do you have the tools to get the numbers where they need to be? And that's really it,
Just for the listeners, can you give your website in case they want to have more info?
Yeah, sure. It's equiquesthardmoney.com.
Okay, easy enough. So now somebody comes to you, right? They want to borrow money for the first time, right? What do they need available? What are you looking for so that, even if it's their first deal, you could say, okay, I could take this guy seriously?
Yeah, I mean, it really comes back to what we were just chatting about. What's the quick analysis? And, a lot of people that are really on top of the game, they'll just send me a email with, hey, here's my Excel file. Here's the purchase price. Here's my comps on what the after repair value, better known as ARV, is. Here's what the construction is. Here's the scope of work. Here's the estimates. I look at that. I determine loan to value. And we're off and running. That's literally it. And then, it doesn't have to be done at any particular stage, but having an LLC or a corporation in place is also really, really helpful. And it does help us move faster. A lot of times people come to me and it's a quick phone call. Hey, I think I got a deal, and I know them. And maybe I cross paths at a meetup or something, or whatever the case may be. And it's like, we're in a mad rush to figure something out because at 12 o'clock they need to make an offer. I mean, that's cool. I get it. But that doesn't need to be the circumstance.
Of course.
Yeah.
So, we've been in a rising market. Other areas of the country are suffering. Long Island, for the most part, has been a bubble. I never want to sit there and think that we're a bulletproof market or impervious, but I do understand that there are factors in place, right, that make this market more appealing than other areas of the country. So when people come to you with deals, how are you assessing the current status of the real estate market, knowing that what it is now and what it could be in 3 to 6 months might be different?
Yeah, that's something that could keep somebody up at night.
Yes.
But so my brother-in-law's going to sign a contract. He's selling his house and downscaling. He got 7 offers. So as I engage with folks like you,
Sure.
I'm keeping an eye on how many offers are you getting. But zooming out, looking at the nation, I'm a member of the American Association of Private Lenders. So quarterly, I'm attending a Zoom meeting with status of lending and real estate, and they're keeping me really tuned in regionally,
Okay.
state, and nationally on really truly what's happening. And then I'm also part of a national mastermind group of people like me
Okay.
that lend in local markets.
Okay.
So between those and then, just having constant communication with folks like you, I feel pretty tuned in on what's going on.
What's the general consensus? Because what's happening out there, what's happening here could be different. So what are you seeing?
Yeah, and so, zooming out a little bit. So I think it was the CEO of Bear Stearns, just got super conservative on private debt, right? That's what I do. It's private debt. And he pulled back, right? So that's kind of like, you're starting to see that some of the larger institutions that do what I do, and I'm, nothing in comparison to them, but I'm looking at that. So that's one piece on what's going on there. And I look at things, just like that on what some of the larger indicators are saying and what folks are doing.
So what I have found, right, for a while, Open Door was in our market, right? They still are making offers, right? Yeah. The problem is especially when you're funding, I think the illusion sometimes of a fix and flip business or a real estate business is that it's this great scalable business. And I've never felt that way. Okay. I think too many people have tried to scale Open Door, tried to scale their home buying business, right? If you look at their stock price for what it was and what it is now, it's in the toilet, right? Real estate is, in my opinion, hyper local, right? Understanding that at a hyper local level, which impacts your ability to scale, right? Because what you do here and what you do somewhere else, not to say it can't be done, but to me, right, working with the specialist versus the generalist and I understand like why a company like Bear Stearns could be backing off because maybe they're doing it on a more general basis, right? Yeah. But for somebody like you who's on Long Island dealing with the specialist, right, I've got to believe you have a different feeling of it than when you go to these masterminds. Maybe people are doing it at a larger level, or maybe they're doing it in a different area. You've got to have a different perspective, I would think.
Yeah, what I'm really anticipating is if we do have a downturn in any kind of economy, and it does affect Long Island, what'll happen is the larger institutions that are now lending nationally will pull out of markets, which they already have. A lot of folks have pulled out of Florida.
Yeah.
And folks like me that are committed and local will continue to do good deals and be here for folks because let's face it, if you're in short-term investments and you're getting out in, under a year, if you take into consideration factors like you're bringing up, you should be able to be exiting in on deals no matter what the economy or local real estate is doing. So I actually, in a crazy way, look forward to any peaks and valleys
Gotcha.
that are going to be coming up.
Long Island residents, do you have a house that you want to potentially sell off market, your terms, your timeline, your way, or do you know of somebody that could benefit from that? Then definitely give us a call. You can reach out to us at 631-333-SELL. The number is below, or visit our website at SuffolkCountyHouseBuyers.com. And for any deal that you refer over to us where you are not the seller, the first deal you refer to us, we pay a $5,000 referral fee. The second deal, we pay a $10,000 referral fee. And get this, the third deal that you refer to us, we will split the profits with you 50-50. And some of our deals are multiple six figures, so this can be a life-changing amount of money. It could pay for weddings, it could pay for college, anything that you choose from. So please take advantage of this great opportunity. Once again, we're looking for off-market opportunities where a seller wants to sell on their terms, their timeline, their way. Have you ever made any lending decisions that you regretted?
So I've only been lending since May of 2020, right? So that's a little over 5 years.
Yeah.
So I've been really fortunate,
Sure.
where I haven't had any major issues. The big thing that really freaked me out, I'll say, was it really wasn't a lending decision. It was an operations decision. We had $500,000 get wired to the wrong account.
Okay.
So that was a decision and just process that was quickly resolved, and we were able to do it. We were able to fix it very, very quickly. So that was the only scary thing that happened.
Yeah.
And it was really money coming in and out of a self-directed IRA, and they were using an administrator, and sometimes and they weren't using an administrator. So it's a quick fix, but having the right team in place, and being a type person that's very detailed focused, and when I have to be, and putting the pieces quickly together and backing that money out and moving it. That was the scariest thing.
I can understand that.
Yeah, I haven't had any, really, I haven't had any real problems lending other than, something like that.
I know you talked about looking forward to potentially a more volatile market or a potential downturn. What do you think your strategies will be during that time? Obviously, you're going to, present yourself as, hey, I'm the local guy that's still here, right? But do you see anything in terms of how you do business will change, or anything you might do differently during those times versus, the rising market that we've been in for the last 5 to 6 years?
Yeah, I mean, I think my underwriting, will be slightly more conservative,
Sure.
but at the same exact time, I think that the real estate investors, are going to be getting probably better deals at that point, which will just correlate directly into the underwriting be more conservative.
Yeah.
You're going to underwrite, you're going to analyze more conservatively, and so will I.
Yes.
At the same exact time when that happens, what's probably going to happen is a downturn in stock performance and your traditional investments. I'm really big on alternatives.
Tell me more about that if you can.
Yeah. So, there's a world, back in what we'll call the old days, when what I'm doing was country club deals. It was for, a select group of people that were invested in private debt, invested in commercial real estate. And that's become mainstream now. So people can take their self-directed, they could take their IRA, convert it to a self-directed IRA, and can buy real estate. They can do private debt. They can buy lots and lots of investments that are considered alternatives that for all intents and purposes are a lot more secure than what Wall Street's going to do and traditional investments are going to do when we do have a downturn in the economy. I mean, let's face it, what we're doing is based on a hard asset, right? So the land, the building is not going to just evaporate like a piece of paper that says I own 250 shares.
Yes.
And now it's gone down 90% because artificial intelligence isn't the hottest thing in the world anymore, and people are pulling back on that.
Gotcha.
So that's really what I'm looking at. And really there, I think there's going to be people that are going to say, okay, Mike's right. The people that talk about alternatives are right. And those people that, have money still available are going to convert into a self-directed IRA and start investing with somebody like me or somebody like you, so that they feel like they're in a position to maintain and grow their wealth and retire nicely.
To that point, right, as those things start to become, I don't say more readily available because they're more available now, but they start to become just more prominent and people realize this is a potential vehicle for them. How do you see yourselves partnering with those people to fund even more deals?
Yeah. So, I'm not the inventor of this, and it really comes down to the mastermind that I'm in. and it comes down to really the way loans get fractionalized. I mean, I have co-lenders. I invest in every single one of my loans. I have my family cash in every single loan. I will never change that. But to help me scale, I bring in co-lenders, somebody that has the same exact position as Equiquest, the same exact position as me, to fractionalize a loan. That really is my approach there.
Now, when you make a deal with somebody, you agree to fund it, you've obviously done the underwriting, but servicing documentation, can you just kind of go into that, how that's handled so somebody
Yeah.
who comes in knows what to expect?
Yeah. So, as I scale, I'll probably buy, there's a company, probably the most predominant company is a company called Mortgage Office that does all the back end stuff for you, creates, really everything for co-lenders and borrowers and all. But for me right now, I'm using QuickBooks,
Okay.
my CRM, as my primary vehicle to issue interest payments to my co-lenders,
Okay.
because they also get a distribution every
Sure.
month, which is income for them. People love that. And additionally, I use those mechanisms to communicate with my co-lenders, my borrowers, and to also collect payments as well.
Okay. The ideal borrower, the ideal deal, what does that look like for you?
Yeah, it's somebody that's a good operator or a great operator, somebody that has a process and plan in place, that's bought a property, that has a good strong value, that ultimately creates a good loan to value for me, and that's in essence it.
Okay.
You
Are
know,
there
that's
any areas that you're like, I don't like putting my money there. I don't like that particular spot, because Long Island, there are certain spots where I'll do deals there, but the numbers are very different, right? Not many, but there's a few.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. So part of my underwriting process and what I really enjoy is the minute somebody brings me a deal, before I put that term sheet together and we say, hey, we're moving ahead, I'm putting the money aside, the lawyers are starting to draft the contracts, I'll drive the neighborhood, and I'll do a drive-by on the home. And that, it amazes me because you'll have a house that is, amazing, and even an amazing block in a neighborhood that, isn't, on the, top 10 list on Long Island. And then you'll drive down a block or a house in some of the top 10 neighborhoods, and it is something that, that I'll get more conservative on an underwriting.
Okay.
So I'm looking at it from that perspective. So really no areas really scare me. But that, that process that I go through in underwriting does vary
Okay.
with my, market intelligence and actually getting boots on the ground and seeing exactly what that looks like.
Okay. I already know the answer to this question, but I want to get it for the audience. I'm
Yeah.
assuming you lent to the same investor multiple times.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what keeps them coming back to you?
Yeah, I think, being local has me the opportunity to be fast and easy to work with. I mean, that really, really is it. Once we build that relationship, the things go really, really, really quickly. Yeah.
The speed at which you do things, I have, it's sometimes 20, 25 deals in the pipeline, right? Certainly recently our pipeline of deals has grown for things for us to buy. So I have to be able to, especially as me, right? I'm marketing myself as somebody, our slogan for my company is your terms, your timeline, your way. And a lot of these sellers, right? A moment's notice, it's like, I'm ready to close. Can we close Friday? I have to be in a position to be able to do that, right? And so I have to be able to make a call. I had just something pop up today, right? That a deal we had that for the longest time, title was trying to get cleared. It was a whole thing. They're ready to go. They want to close Friday. I have to be able to be in a position where I can make that phone call and say, okay, talk to one of my private lenders. I have this. Are we good? Yes, we're good. I know it's going to get done. That homeowner is going to get what they need. So the ease of things, and the rates that I pay my private lenders, I have a lot of, hard money people come to me, right? And, well, we could do better than that. And I'm like, I don't really care because you can't give me what they could give me, right? They could give me the ease, the peace of mind, the fluidness that I don't have to worry about the money part of it, right? Like I know that's locked in. I know it's good to go. Getting to the closing table isn't a problem, right? Like the harder thing is getting it ready to close. That could be, sellers driving you crazy. But once it's all good, everyone's ready, title is clear, the money's the last thought. That's the easiest part. And so for me, I'm willing to pay a premium for that because that's how what makes the business operate so much more smoothly.
Yeah, it is amazing. I had an opportunity that came up recently where we were expedite expediting title. Hey, I got a call on Thursday. Can we close this week? This coming week? It was before 4th of July, and the answer was yes. And it was a situation where somebody was in hospice. They wanted
I
the
know.
home to close.
Yeah.
So, there really are, some really, really timeline focused pieces where, you're really helping out the family by
Sure.
getting that house um, sold for them for lots of reasons. And so speed is really, really, really key. Yeah.
As you've embarked upon this journey of being a private lender, is any major success stories that stick out in your mind?
It's still, I'm doing it 5 years. I mean, every one of them still is exhilarating for
Sure.
me, to see somebody, that I funded, turn a really, really ugly house. And not always ugly, super ugly houses, but to turn an ugly house, to take somebody, out of a situation like you do every single day where they really have to get out of a property and to see that go to a new family, that still energizes me
Yeah.
tremendously. There's some home runs where I see somebody that's starting out make $250,000 on a property.
Yeah.
Those are life-changing
Yeah.
numbers. I mean,
They are.
that's putting a kid through college, seed money. It might give somebody the opportunity to buy their own home or to step away from a stressful corporate job. I mean, so, those are, the success stories that I like to say and
Yeah,
like
no,
working on.
having been through this and gone through like so many transactions, one of my favorite parts really is when we come into an area, we've got a house, it's a complete wreck, right? And listen, a bad neighbor can make your life hell. When you're fixing and flipping a home. Ask me how I know. Most of the time, though,
Yeah.
they're all coming out being like, "Thank you," like you know what I mean, like whatever it is you need, this is great, right? Because they have them on. They know, okay, like this thing has been bringing down my property value. Whatever you're gonna do is gonna raise it.
Yeah.
They're all behind it. That part I've always really liked and enjoyed. Because I actually was one of those people, right? Like I had a really, I had a nice house in a nice area, and right next door to me was a house that was just borderline condemnable, and the guy just wouldn't take care of it, wouldn't deal with it. Finally, somebody bought it. This was early in my career. Wound up knocking it down and rebuilding it. So now there's this beautiful home that's next door to me. The time I really didn't have the capacity to do something of that size. But he did, and I could, I was like, listen, whatever you need, like, just do what you have to do. And so when those people still come out, literally out of their houses, honking their horns, cheering, like, that still is a great part of it. That part of it never gets old because you do so many, it starts to get monotonous. It starts to feel routine, and I don't want to say feels like a grind, but there's those moments where you've helped somebody out of a jam, you've helped improve the neighborhood, and people really appreciate it. That never gets old.
It's so funny that you say that. I never put this together, but the house that I grew up in Bay Shore ultimately got really ran down, and the nicest people in the world lived there. They were just struggling, and it ultimately got sold to a fix and flipper and got renovated. So I saw it firsthand from the next, from my next door neighbor. So yeah, that's so true.
Now this is the house that you grew up in.
I grew up in, yeah, way back when.
So,
yeah.
and then you sold it, right? And then I don't know if it changed hands multiple times after that.
Yeah, what I'm saying is similar to you, where I grew up in my house and it was meticulously maintained.
Sure.
The house next
Oh,
door,
next door. Gotcha.
what was that home that everybody needed to get renovated. I mean, literally the grass was growing and hanging over in our yard. And which I think is similar to what you just described, where you really want that home to be renovated. You're living in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And so I saw that, and maybe that one inspired me a little bit to see that happen as a young person.
For other people that are looking to become private lenders, what advice do you have for them, right? Because it's a scary thought, right? Because it's like, yes, you have this hard asset, but it still is dependent on that person's character, their ability to perform, right? It's not a risk-free investment. What's the best advice you could give them?
Yeah, that's a great question. I guess it falls into a couple different categories, but educate yourself. The American Association of Private Lenders is a great organization. The industry is growing; they're growing. They do a national convention once a year in Vegas. That's a really good place. And they do a lot of remote learning. They have a great website with remote modules. You can get certified to be a lender there. So I would say definitely spend some time there. For sure, my strategy and what I've been trained on is only do first position loans, because they're less risky. So I would say that would be a big piece. And then, you'll get to the point where you do the research where you'll feel comfortable doing a loan, both because you can financially withstand any turbulence, and then you'll be ready, and then you'll be ready to take action and take some risk, but it's calculated.
Yes. I know your goal, it's to promote, the American dream, right?
Yeah.
On Long Island, not just here, but on Long Island. You've started out local, a success story in corporate America, now taking the next step to really enjoy, right, the fruits of your labor, right, at this point. If you don't mind me asking, how old are you?
59.
59. So you're at a point, right, like, you're entering those years that you want to enjoy, right? Like, what does it all mean to you, right? Like, I know, like, that's a big part of, like, what you want to promote, right? And so when you look at your purpose behind investing, obviously there's a mentorship aspect, right? But there's also something in it for you. What does that mean to you?
Yeah. So for me, I was fortunate to kind of scrape together with some really great parents, some really good family, the life that I have. And I say scrape together, like there was no blueprint, right? There was no mentor knocking down my door saying, hey, this is the way you're going to do it. But, we call it proximity now. I was smart enough to get around some really, really smart people and try to copy them. And there was lots of people in my life that I was, copying. But for me, it's giving the opportunity to people to understand that if I can do it,
Sure,
be successful and build a really great life, they can do it. And that's the message that I really want to convey. And that's why I'm coming on this podcast.
Sure.
And that's why I'm, out there talking about that. That's why I'm a volunteer mentor at New York Institute of Technology. That's why I'm always asking my kids and my friends' kids, if they need some guidance after graduating college or graduating high school, what to do. Like I'll give you some blueprint. So, I love creating plans and I love co-creating plans and I love helping people understand that if you make a plan, you're going to have a really, really great life.
In terms of you growing as a private investor, we talked about this. You said somebody's always operating at a higher level, right?
Yeah.
What does that look like? Are there specific people right now that you're looking up to, right? Just as you're passing on guidance to people, you still have to grow and get better. Are there any particular people that are helping you in that area?
Yeah, so this mastermind I'm in is really, really great. These guys that are running the mastermind have been lending in the Maryland, D.C. area for almost 20 years. So I'm learning a lot from them and, emulating them in terms of scaling in my local market. But for me, I always like to kind of look what you're getting at what's the next level. So I've been attending some family office events.
Hmm.
So there's a family office organization that's a lot about accredited investors, alternative investing, somebody that's built some wealth that wants to invest in these type of things. So that's where I'm focused, right? On, can I invest in businesses? Can I invest in real estate? Can I continue to lend and do what I'm doing? So that's where my eye is looking up to.
You say that people overestimate, right, what they can do in a year, drastically underestimate what they can do in 10, right? What does that look like for you? What do the next 10 years look like for you? And how does that play into, Equiquest and being this hyper local, private lender? What does that mean? How do those two kind of dovetail together?
Yeah. So, for me, I would say within the next 5 years, I'd like to have somebody really closely helping me run the
Hmm.
organization, almost to the point where they're going to be a partner,
Sure.
and really running the organization with me. And additionally, I want to buy more commercial real estate,
Okay.
maybe be a co-GP,
Okay.
general partner.
Commercial real estate, what specific asset classes within commercial real
Yeah,
estate?
and multifamily has
Okay.
been hot. I think there's some opportunities in multifamily. Some small to medium multifamily, I think would really be the sweet spot for me.
Okay.
And I have some folks that I've worked on that with. We'll continue to work on
Sure.
that. And then, I think, I don't know if folks have heard or have you heard about the silver tsunami, right? There's lots of folks that are in their 60s and 70s with silver hair that have great businesses that somebody with great business skills
Yeah.
can either maintain or expand with modern business skills. So I think there's a sweet spot there for folks like myself, folks like you,
Sure.
to acquire and expand some of those businesses. So that's something that interests me as
Yeah,
well.
it interests me as well. I without a doubt see tremendous amounts of opportunity on that front. So at this point, I mean, I think you've answered pretty much all the questions that I have. But before we go, best way for people to get in touch with you.
Yeah. So, EquiquestHardMoney.com is a great place to connect. And then also my handle on Instagram is MDeAngelis12. I'm also on Facebook and LinkedIn. So more than willing to have a conversation, more than willing to help people become a real estate investor. Now, I'm not going to be your coach and I'm not going to be getting into the details, but how to look at lots of aspects, how to create a business and all. I'm more than willing to dive in with folks. So DM me, connect with me on my website.
All right. Well, Michael, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really
Thanks for
appreciate
having
it.
me.
All
Appreciate
right.
it.
All right, guys. So that concludes our show. I appreciate you watching it. Like I said, the benefits of hard money, I could go into multiple shows on this and how it's impacted my life. So please, if you have any questions, do reach out to Michael. And as always, if you ever have a deal that you're interested in, bring it to my attention, okay? We pay large referral fees, and after a certain amount of deals, we'll actually split the deal with you 50-50. So please bear that in mind, because you may come across something where you don't know how to handle it. That's when you come to guys like myself, or you go to somebody like Michael. We'll guide you through the process. We'll make sure that it's a win-win for everybody. So I appreciate you watching as always. And please DM me, reach out with any questions. I'm always here to help.